And the problem is not the Coast Guard. It's not the shipyards. The problem are 435 members of Congress and 100 senators and a president. Let's just get very blunt with ourselves. We're either going to put the money up and build this system out, or we're not. And we've been dithering now for the 8 years that I've been around on this committee. Oh, we can't do it. We don't have the money. Da, 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 da. It's us. And by the way, the question is going to be resolved in the next 2 weeks. The Senate has the money in the appropriation, in their appropriation bill. The House does not. The House decided to spend $5 billion on a goddamn wall that won't do a thing to protect America. The Senate decided to spend the money, 1.2 on a security, which may be a wall, and an icebreaker. The problem is us. And we're either going to decide to build icebreakers or build a wall, and we're going to do it in the next 2 weeks. It's a choice. Make a choice. What do we want to do? We're going to forget about the polar, the Arctic Ocean? Oh, Russia is a problem. The National Defense Strategy says there are two major conflicts potential. One Russia, one China. Both China and Russia are moving ahead. And we're going to build a wall on the Mexican border to prevent, what, 5,000, an invasion. My God. The problem is us, folks. Plain and simple. The money is there. The question is, where are we going to spend it? I haven't even gotten to nuclear bombs yet. Ms. Mack, you laid it out. We're going to sit here and dither and wait, and then we're going to call Admiral Haycock or his successor in and pillar him or her about not getting the job done when we haven't given them the money or the direction. I'll go on and on about this, but I'm telling you, the money is there. The question is, where are we going to spend it? Now, moving on. The cost doesn't have to be $1 billion. I don't need $6 billion out of the defense budget. I only need $4.2 billion over the next 6 to 7 years to build these icebreakers. There's going to be a new team in town in January, but the problem exists in the next 2 weeks. Now, with regard to the issue of the maritime industry, all of the witnesses have said the same thing. It's all about cargo. Right? Is that right, Mr. Avon?
All of the operators would agree.
It's all about cargo. Is there any question, Mac, Rook, Busby? So, where do we get the cargo? Oh, yes. Well, there's a piece of legislation out there, mentioned by most of you, that we are going to be exporting oil and gas. Why don't we put it on American ships? Piece of legislation, by the way. Bipartisan, bicameral support for it. Not going to pass this year, but if it were to pass next year, we'd build 30 to 50 ships over the next 15 years, and we'd put the mariners on it. So we can do that without the government paying for it. But the oil and gas industry that's going to make a pile of money based upon one of our natural resources that the public owns, we could do that. It's all about choices, folks. And I think you know where I'm going to go on these issues. Now, with regard to the cost differential, and I'm going to wrap up in the next 42 seconds with this one. You suggest that it's more expensive to operate American ships. Have you taken into account in that analysis the subsidies, both direct and indirect, that are provided by our competitors?
Those are not included in that calculation.
I know that. That's why I asked the question. And therefore, the analysis is not valid. The analysis is not valid. Other countries are providing massive subsidies for their maritime industry, for the shipbuilding as well as for the operation. And we do some, but we don't come anywhere close the next time you guys appear before any committee in which I happen to be sitting, I want to see that analysis. I don't want to see only half of the equation. I thank you for your direct answer to my question. And by the way, we really ought to subpoena Mulvaney. There is the reason why we do not have the report. It is hung up in OMB by Mulvaney's predecessor, or at least his operation, and the same two gnomes are sitting there on this report, as they have been for the last half-decade. And we're not going to get it out of there until we put heavy pressure on that system. I know it's not your problem, Mr. Busby, Admiral Busby. Yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Garamendi. I gather you believe the 1980s don't want their foreign